Ukraine is strongly condemning what it calls Russia's provocative actions in the Black Sea. Moscow says one of its warships fired warning shots at a cargo ship on Sunday. Soldiers then boarded the ship, the Russians claiming it was headed to Ukraine. Hours later, Kyiv accused Moscow of launching a barrage of missiles and drones at Odessa. The port city has been repeatedly targeted by Russian forces throughout the war. And Nick Paton-Walsh is in Dnipro now for us. Nick, it's not just about Odessa, of course. Many of the ports that are crucial to grain exports have been targeted in recent weeks and months. But now a cargo ship itself has been challenged too. What more do we know on this?
Yeah, it's an extraordinary brazen set of messages sent by the Russian Navy here. The Sukhru Okan, a Palau registered flagged vessel, was essentially boarded by Russian military, backed up by a Ka-29 helicopter that hovered over the vessel. And they released a video of that particular incident, indeed seemingly showing some of the crew sitting in a line along part of that ship. As far as we know, the Sukhru Okan, which Russia said was headed for Izmail, didn't actually end up going there. Instead, it went to the Romanian port of Salina that essentially sits on the other side of the Danube River near the mouth of the Black Sea. Why is all this happening? Well, Russia pulled out of a grain deal which should have allowed ships passage to take grain onto international markets, and essentially it does appear that many ships decided to move regardless, and this is perhaps Russia's bid to show that it's still in control of those waterways. Whether they're able to do this for every single ship they have suspicions about, I very much doubt. We've seen how resource-strained the Russian military is on the front lines here. The idea of them sending out a Ka-29 helicopter for every ship they want to have a look at seems tough, but certainly very keen to show this message of control in the Black Sea. While at the same time, too, it's important to point out that some of their more important marine vessels have been hit by Ukrainian drones, even as far east as Novorossiysk. But at the same time, as we see Moscow losing control in other areas it would like to suggest its dominance, responding with brute force against civilian targets. You mentioned Odessa there, certainly that again the case. Remarkable images of a supermarket on fire, 3 apparently wounded there. Other targets hit, including a dormitory in Odessa, and also, again, Kharkiv, more shelling there. And I should just remind people again, over the weekend, the utterly chilling death of a 23-day-old baby girl called Sophia, killed along with the rest of her family, her 12-year-old brother and mother and father, by shelling in Kherson, in a village actually close towards the Black Sea itself. This consistent drumbeat of Russian targeting civilians, even the very youngest, persisting. Julia?
Tragedy. Nick, thank you for that. Nick Paton-Walsh there in Dnipro. Meanwhile, in Russia, signs that the economy is facing pressure from both sanctions and dwindling exports. The dollar hitting a 17-month high against the ruble. For context, the Russian currency has lost nearly 40% of its value so far this year. Claire Sebastian joins us now on this. Claire, I think the surprise here really is that the weakness that we're seeing hasn't happened before. The question is, how much more do we see, and what do the central bank do to try and perhaps step in and mitigate this?
Yeah, Julia, I think that is the question now, 18 months into this war. Obviously, the currency did fall quite significantly in the first couple of weeks, but they've rebounded as the central bank brought in all these emergency measures. And of course, as we saw huge revenues come in from oil and gas as those prices came up. Obviously now some of that trend is in reverse. Oil and gas prices have fallen for some of this year. Russian revenues from oil and gas are down some 40% in the first part of the year, first half of the year, and that is contributing to a situation where really the trade balance has been turned upside down to some degree. The current account surplus is down some 85% in the first half of the year, and this is what the central bank is really attributing to the fall in the currency. Imports have surged as demand has returned and exports have come down, of course, with oil and gas being the biggest contributor. It could still continue. The central bank is saying today that they may step in and raise rates again at their next meeting. They just did so by a full percentage point in July for the first time in more than a year. You'll remember they've been bringing rates down really since sort of the late spring of last year, after they had to raise them as an emergency measure at the beginning of the war. They may have to now keep raising them, so that's one thing. But I think this is all as well something to bear in mind. I was just talking to an economist who reminded me that for the Russian people, this exchange rate is very psychological. Russia is a country which has sort of money change shops pretty much on every corner. They will walk past and see these triple-digit numbers. And so the government is out today trying to reassure the people and advisor to the Kremlin, saying the central bank has all the tools it needs to fix this. Julia?
Yeah, the problem is when they start to raise interest rates and have to do so perhaps even more aggressively, then they're really going to feel it. It's a sort of double whammy. Claire, good to have you. Thank you. Claire Sebastian there.